Hey guys, this is Bianca from Crafty Girls Cricut. Today we have an amazing project for you. It's going to be a Halloween bat and pumpkin garland. It's going to be the perfect thing to bring a little bit of spooky into your home. So today I have in front of me all that you're going to need to make this awesome project. So you're going to need a Cricut. You're going to need some paper. So this is cardstock. I do have a big pack that was about $20 at Joann's, but you don't have to spend that if you don't want. What I love is that I actually found this for $5 at Walmart. I know, Walmart, right? Who knew? So apparently they carry cardstock, which is pretty cool, and it has all kinds of awesome colors that we can use for other projects. But it happens to have orange and black. So what's cool is this banner doesn't have to cost hardly anything, which is really a bonus because there's so many cool crafts I want to do this year, specifically for Halloween, that it's even better if I can do a lot of projects for a little bit of money. So you can use whatever you'd like to make this banner. You have the option of using some twine. So this is jute cord, and it's just from Dollar Tree, which is pretty awesome also. And you can use this to hold all of your bats together. You can staple it to it. You can hot glue it, which I think is the most popular way to attach it. But I'm actually going to do it the way that I love to do bat banners, partially just because it's so easy, is sewing it. So I'm going to show you guys today how I sew my banner. Cool. With paper. So it's going to be a sewn paper banner. And it's super easy, super fun, and it just looks really cute. So let's get started. And another option is to hand sew this. So you don't have to have hot glue, you don't have to have jute cord. If you want, you can just go get one of these, which is just a hand thread. I think it's like 60 cents at your local craft store, and you can hand sew that. You will need a needle for that, but other than that, this is another option, is you can just use the needle, poke a hole, and sew with this. Another way you could do it, especially if you wanted to do it with your little kids, is you could take a hole punch and punch holes in either side of the pumpkins and the bats, and then thread the wire, thread whatever you're going to use to hold it together, thread the thread or jute or whatever you're going to use right through those holes, and then you have a banner. So there's so many different ways. That's something I love about crafting, is every craft is so versatile that you can do it pretty much any way you want and it'll turn out pretty awesome. So I'm going to do it my way, but there's so many other ways that you could do this. Personalize it, make it your own, and love what you create. So let's get started. Design space open, and I'm going to show you how to get to the template that I've created. So these are all hand-drawn bats and pumpkins. So this is going to be the only place that you'll get these specific bats and pumpkins. So I hand drew these adorable bats and pumpkins and uploaded them via scan and then turned them into PNGs. So these are very unique. So I'm going to click customize, and I'll leave the link to this template below as well. And then you just make sure they're the size you want. So I have these at 2 inches by 3 inches. So I've got 10 bats and 10 pumpkins, and I've got a couple different facial expressions just to mix it up a bit. I'm going to click and drag all of them, and then you can adjust them the way you want. I'm going to show you an easy way to adjust them by just having one bat up against the 0. That you can see, okay, this bat is 4 inches. So if you want 5-inch bats, you're just going to drag this entire group to be 5 inches. So that's an easy way to size all of them at once without having to go individually and changing their width and height. Same with the pumpkins. I have my pumpkins at 2 by 2, basically 2 by 1.5. But if I wanted all of them to be one size, or you want big or small, you can go through and individually do it. But
If they load up into your design space the way you want them, then you can just head over to make it, which is what I'm gonna do because I have them sized the way I want it. This will be enough to make a 10-foot banner. So I'm gonna select make it. It's going to set you up with mats because I've already color coded them so that they automatically go on the mat that's black and the mat that's orange. So you can move them around the way, whatever way you want. These actually are all pretty snugged within the square, so I don't need to rearrange them or anything. You're going to select continue. Once my maker's on, which it's not, you will have a drop down of material. You're going to select cardstock or whichever material you're cutting. Then you'll select go. I always do the speed mode just so it's faster. All right, let's go get into this. I'll show you guys what I'm doing.
Okay, so I've got my mat, it's ready to go. And I've got my 2 sheets of paper. So I'm gonna start with, as you saw on my screen, I have my bats up first to be cut out. So if you're new to Cricut, you just align your paper just to your best ability. It doesn't have to be perfect, just has to kind of align with the outside edge. So the adhesive sticks, because you don't want to have it be off too much, because what will happen is the little wheels, and when it slides back and forth, it can get caught on the edges and tear your paper. And you don't want that. So some people have fancy rollers. I've seen them. I wasn't willing to spend money on that because there's so many other crafts I could do with that money. So instead, you just go over your hand real quick, nothing to it, go through and make sure that it's well adhered, and then you're ready to go. And if you have your project loaded up like I showed you on my computer screen, all you have to do is put it in. Another side tip is when you put it in the machine, please make sure you use one finger and just hold that tension, okay? Don't just let it kind of fall like this. I don't suggest that because I've had enough projects get messed up because I didn't make sure. That I always make sure now that when I go to load it, I use a finger just to hold it. I'm not pushing it, but I'm just kind of holding it there. So as you can see, if I push it, it'll kind of bend the mat. You don't want to do that. You just give it a little bit of tension so that when the machine sucks in the mat, it sucks it in at the correct speed. Where if you leave a gap and it takes it a minute to catch the mat, your where it cuts out will be all off. I've had a lot of stuff ruined by doing that. Now we're gonna click go, and it's going to start cutting out our super cute bats. And while it's doing that, I'm gonna go get my sewing machine set up. Now that they're all cut out, I'm going to weed them and get my pumpkins on. Okay, so now my favorite thing about weeding paper is that it's really easy. Compared to vinyl, when you pull it off, most of the pieces usually come right off. So instead of pulling it up like this, don't pull it up like this because it'll make everything curled. I flip my mat over, hold down the paper, and I pull the mat off. And you definitely want to do it pretty carefully because you don't want to rip your paper. Especially if there are some areas that haven't been cut quite, as thoroughly as we would like. You don't want to rip your paper, so you always want to do it nice and slow. And then another tip is, instead of trying to pick this up, which actually wouldn't be too hard, again, I'll flip my mat over, making sure, of course, that the area is clean. You don't want to get all kinds of debris on your mat. And then, boop, if you can see what I'm doing, I just push my finger down on the paper to the table, and it comes right off. So that's another easy way to weed a bunch of pieces of paper cutouts at one time without having to try to, get it off with your nail or something. And then there we go. Now we have a super adorable set of bats. Let's see if I can get it. There we go. How cute is that? Look Look at that cute little bat. It's so adorable. It's so adorable, right? Oh my goodness, it's so cute. So we've got our bats ready. Now we're gonna go and cut out our pumpkins. Okay, another quick tip is I actually had what looked like a debit card, but it was just a blank white card, and it was the same size as a debit card, and I used it often to apply my vinyl to glass and things like that, but I lost it somewhere in the move, so I'm just going to use this. So this is just a little, cardboard package that has some push pins in it from Target for $1 from Target Dollar Spot. I'm just gonna use it. I'm gonna go through and I'm just gonna slide it off. That is my favorite way to clean my mat off when there's a ton of tiny pieces. I just run it right along. This isn't as quick as my little card, but this is a perfect example of using what you have. So you don't have to go buy a fancy scraper thing. This works just fine. It doesn't damage your mat at all. So you can just find what you have that's a little sturdy and has a sturdy edge that can just slide it off. Now my mat's ready to go for the next cut. All right, so now I'm gonna load the mat with my orange paper. I'm just gonna line it up just like I did with the black paper. And you start from the middle and work your way out so that you don't have bumps or creases in your paper. So you start from the middle and you work your way out, and you do the corners first and then work your way to the middles. That's the best way to not have like bumps and creases in your paper. Okay, so now I'm gonna load my mat up and we're gonna get cutting out some pumpkins. I'm gonna do the same thing, hold the mat with my finger, press the load button, make sure that it is loaded properly. Now I'm gonna press the go button and it's gonna start cutting out our super cute pumpkins. So now that our pumpkin's ready, I'm gonna go ahead and take that out. Then we're gonna do the same process. Now that we finish peeling off using the same method of flipping it over, peeling it off nice and slow, now we're going to do the same thing for our pumpkins that we did with our bats. I'm just going to peel this and pop all of our cute little pumpkins right off our mat. And as long as you're not squishing your mat down and you're just gently bending it, it won't damage the mat or bend it. So for example, as you can see, it flops right back. You don't want to ever have this part of it squished down too far, because if you do it too much, it can actually crack it, bend it, break it, or make it so bowed that it doesn't want to cut and lay flat. So I never bend it more than this. I always just do it in a horseshoe shaped amount of folding, like a horseshoe. I never bend it more than that, because if you bend this too much, you're going to end up damaging your mat or cracking it or breaking it. So you don't want to do that, and you don't want it to be so bent that it never lays flat properly, and then you won't be able to easily have it lay flat to cut your stuff out. But that's just a tip if you're going to do what I'm doing and you fold it. You never want to fold it too much. So, but that is my favorite way. As you see, instead of trying to like pick at it, you can just kind of bend your mat a little bit. And as you can see, that's why I like to roll it over the other way, because if you don't, you try to do it like this, where it's right facing up, you end up with a curved little pumpkin. Luckily, this is pretty easy to flatten back out, but it's always faster if you don't have to flatten it out in the first place. So I'm gonna do the same method of cleaning this off that I used a moment ago with my bats. Instead of trying to hand pick all of these off, I'm simply going to take this and just gently run it along the mat. And just scrape it right off. Because this isn't metal or anything, it's not abrasive enough to damage the board. Because you definitely don't want to probably do this with like something metal, like a spatula. You don't want to probably do that. You can, but I wouldn't advise it because you don't want to mess with your mat. But this, just like a cardboard or like I say, credit card, something like that, that works out perfectly, just enough, stiff enough for you to be able to push it across the board. But it's an easy way to clean off all the little pieces without damaging your mat and clean it off quickly. All right, now we have our adorable little pumpkin. It's ready to go. Now we've got our two adorable little pieces. We've got our bat and our pumpkin, and we're ready to go sew them together. So let's go get started. Okay, so now I've got my pumpkin stacked up, my bat stacked up, and I've got my sewing machine ready. So now I'm gonna sew them into a banner. And there you have it, a beautiful banner made from scratch. Now you know how to make a beautiful homemade Halloween garland banner. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it helps bring a little extra spooky to your home. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.